I think to orient things is to remember we're not saved by our doctrine. That's an important point right there. Because there's more than one kind of legalism, right? There's a kind of a moral, spiritual legalism as to what we do somehow contributes to our salvation. But there is also a kind of doctrinal works righteousness as well, where what we believe saves us. And sometimes people get to thinking the reason I want to have the right theology is because if I don't, my whole salvation is in question. But that would mean actually that we're thinking in a way of doctrinal self-righteousness. So it's not Trinitarian theology that's going to save you, right? It's the triune God that's going to save you, not the theology itself. So but some people are so nervous, about getting all the doctrines all the way down, because if it's not, who knows what could happen? You may not end up, welcomed into the kingdom because you didn't say something right or think something right or have the word right. So that's not what theology is about. It's not establishing some kind of doctrinal self-righteousness. So that should help everybody relax. Of course, if you really think your doctrine says you'll still be nervous. No, don't take that away from me. So theology is, I like what C.S. Lewis put it very simply, is like a map. And so a map to the reality, it's the reality that saves you, is who God is. And what you want is an accurate map to help you relate with God and share with others accurately and as faithfully as you can. But maps are pointers. You don't go to a vacation on the map. But sometimes if you didn't have a map, you'd never make it to your vacation point. I mean, if the pilots and various airlines and things didn't have maps to get here, you may not be here. But you didn't travel on the map, and the point wasn't just to have the perfect map. And maps don't have to be exactly perfect in every single way in order for you to get here. But obviously, better maps are better and more helpful to relate with, interact with, talk about, share with others where it is you're going, and yes, how to get there. But the map isn't the reality. So some people overvalue theology as if you're saved by your doctrine, but other people undervalue theology, and they say we just want to go to the beach. We don't need a map. What do we need a map for? To get there. Or we want to navigate across the ocean. Sure, we want to get to Bermuda, but, we don't need a map to do that. We're just going to set out on the ocean from somewhere in Florida and get there.
So what's the value you put in it?
So there's undervaluing the place of a map. So you have to distinguish the map from the reality, but see how they're connected. And so we need, the reality is far greater than the map, but the map can be useful. And theology is the history of people trying to draw up more and more faithful maps. And every denomination and every group is trying to have a faithful map, although sometimes they get off base and they think, no, this is the means of salvation we're drawing here. We're saved by our doctrine. Or other groups want to say we don't want to have to do with any maps at all. We're just going to have our own relationship with God and make it up as we go without any maps. So you can both undervalue it and overvalue it. It goes both ways. And usually in any group, people will tend to tip one way or the other, right? So in terms of what I think I'm trying to help you do is draw accurate and faithful maps that point to and direct us to God according to who he really is, and Jesus Christ according to Scripture. So we use all that to kind of draw our maps, and they end up then in doctrinal statements, yes, and discussions and further discussions about it. So we're all just trying to be faithful to the reality by having words and concepts and illustrations and analogies that are maps that point faithfully and accurately. And if we need to redraw our maps a little bit, that's okay. The reality's still sitting there. We haven't changed the reality by changing our maps. We're trying to get our maps to match it. So you can relax. In other words, and so we do it by grace, by the grace of God. It's just as much by the grace of God as anything else we do. Yeah. So we don't kind of leave the grace of God somehow behind and then have to accomplish this thing for ourselves. It's just as much and the obedience of faith, trusting in God's grace to even guide us in drawing our maps.